And thank you so much for staying with us here on Morning Live. Now, this is something that most of us can relate to. Complaints related to online fraud continue to be the highest in the banking sector. The Ombudsman for Banking Services released a report recently which contained over 7,000 cases in 2018. And internet banking, ATM and credit card fraud accounted for 48% of all the complaints that were lodged. Reana Steyn, the Ombudsman for the banking services sector, is with us this morning to discuss some of this. Thank you so much for coming through.
Good morning.
So let's start here, Reana. What sort of scams, the kind of scams that came up most commonly, which were those?
Well, I think when you talk about online banking, it's still phishing. And phishing, we mean it's a website that's created. It looks exactly like the bank's website, but it's not. Consumers still click on those suspicious emails, and then it takes them through to the fake site. So phishing is still a problem. Phone calls, which they call vishing. So somebody pretending to be from the bank, who's obviously clearly not working at the bank, but they're very convincing. They say the right things, they're even background noises. So that's also a problem. And at the ATMs, there's still card skimming. So that is where somebody, is behind you, they pretend to help, and very quickly they swap your card.
So how are complaints related to the banking sector and this type of fraud policed?
So, of course, we deal with a small number of complaints. Although we think 7,000 are sort of a sufficient number, the banks themselves deal with hundreds of thousands of complaints, which they resolve. We only see those few that's not resolved. So every time there's a new scam, I think it's blocked. But then, of course, the fraudsters work full-time to come up with a new one. So every time there's a fraud and a scam that's reported, that site will be closed down, that scam will be stopped, but then of course there's a new one. I think that's the way of crime.
And what about convictions? Because we seldom hear about that.
I think I've been informed that there have been, where the banks have actually managed to find the culprits, with the laptops and with the evidence. I'm not sure that is always newsworthy, but I think it's also few and far between where they've actually managed to trace those fraudsters.
And just looking at, again, how all of this is policed. So as the Ombudsman, as you say, you come in at the end where people have not had any joy when they have complained to the banking institutions themselves. But do you think that people are sufficiently aware of your office and the sort of relief that you can bring to them?
Unfortunately not. As a non-profit, we've got a limited budget for advertising. So we do have to rely on the banks advising that unhappy customer that they've got recourse to our office. We do our bit. We do have press releases. We go on TV shows. We talk on radio shows just to keep on making consumers aware. And I think the fact that we had 40% more complaints over the last 2 years, I'm hoping that it does show that more consumers are aware of our office.
And so important that we are. But if a complainant has to come to your office, what do they need to have done prior to approaching the Ombudsman?
So the process stipulates that you must at least complain to the bank first. You can't come to us as an ombudsman and you haven't even told the bank about the problem. But we do find consumers contacting us asking for help and they haven't been to the bank. And then we assist them, we'll send that complaint on their behalf to the bank. So the bank must just have one look at it. They must have an opportunity to resolve it, which they then do in many cases. And then if the consumer is not happy, then we will step in, we'll open a case and we will take it further.
And you say, Reana, the bank must have opportunity to resolve it, but how long? What would you say is a reasonable period of time for the bank to resolve any given complaint?
We only give them 20 business days. So it's basically a month. So after a month, if there's no outcome or if you're not happy with the outcome, then we open a formal complaint in our office.
And when it comes to, the teeth that your office has, what can you compel the bank to do?
So when we look at a case, we look at the facts, and we, of course, hear the version from the consumer, we hear the version from the bank, and then we look at the documentation, whether it is a printout, whether it's statements, whatever it is, and we look at the law. The teeth we have, if we make a determination against the bank, they will oblige. 100% of the cases, if we make a determination against them, they will comply with that.
Well, just in closing, Reana, how do people get in touch with your office?
Well, we try and make it easy. So we have a website, OBSSA, so it's Ombudsman for Banking Services South Africa. We have an info email address, info@OBSSA. We've got a call centre, 0860 800 900, easy numbers to remember. But Google, if you Google, you'll find the Ombudsman for Banking Services.
And I hope this has been helpful, and thanks to Reana Steyn, the Ombudsman for the banking services sector, for chatting to us about online fraud and, of course, what recourse you have with the banks. And as she says, her office does have teeth, and usually the banks do comply, or she said they always comply. So if you have no joy with your complaints at the bank, you're welcome to refer it to the Ombudsman's office, and the bank will have a month within which to respond. And from there, they will take it further and make sure that your issue is resolved. But of course, as she said, start with the bank, lay the complaint with the bank first. So hopefully that was helpful. And if you need any more information, tweet or Facebook us, and we'll get back to you with the relevant information. Let's take a quick break.